Hola! This is Rafecal. We're doing the ancient cave again. I'm gonna try this. You know what? Okay, we're gonna still go with the normal party. We're gonna go with the normal party. But we are gonna continue experimenting here. We're gonna use Zeppy. Zeppy is a fish for our capsule monster. I want to experiment with capsule monsters. I'm not a big fan of Darby because his early form is so bad. One of the suggestions I've actually gotten is to, since I don't like Darby's first form, basically to use like Flash or Sully, or really any of them, at the beginning of the game, but don't actually upgrade them. One of the ones that has a strong first form, basically, or that does something useful occasionally in its first form, in Flash's case. And then at the end, once you get enough stuff, basically you just wait until you can start on the second form of the next one. It's kind of an odd suggestion. The only reason I don't like it is because the EXP. You wouldn't get XP on the capsule monster until you got up to a certain point. But the later enemies give so much that they should grow pretty fast and not end up too far behind if you did, depending on where you did it. The actual suggestion I had read as a potential strategy was to wait until the very end and then switch out when you were farming IP against like copper dragons or something at the very end. That I don't think is a good idea. I think that's a bit much. But the idea of just, you know, using like Flash or Sully for the beginning, if I'm going to use Darby, is reasonable, because there's no way I really don't like Darby. That's really what it comes down to. I don't like Darby's first form. He's really cool later on, but he's not useful at the beginning, and it drives me crazy. That's a good start. Okay, I can get behind that. Camu armor is it's not great defensive armor, I mean, it's good for now, definitely. But it boosts your attack in addition to your defense, which is not super common. There's only like 2 or 3 pieces of armor that do that. And obviously, if we get down to the jelly, we're looking for every point of damage we can do. For those who are not familiar, since I didn't do my normal spiel, Lufia 2, this is the bonus game, basically, which is a randomly generated 100 floor dungeon. At the bottom is a boss. You have 3 rounds to kill said boss. He doesn't fight back. You just have to beat him in 3 rounds. He has 10,000 hit points. We're looking for special gear that will help us get through the dungeon, and then ultimately beat the boss. We start level 1 with no equipment, but you get random equipment throughout the entire dungeon, including spells, including everything, and basically, as you go through, their monsters and equipment start spawning at different points. So most monsters have a range of like 4 floors they appear on, and most ooh, Curse Lifter's a good item. Most items, so enemies spawn for like a couple floors and then stop. Enemies, or items rather, get added to an increasing pool. So at the beginning of the game, you know, there's not a ton of items in the pool, and then as you go deeper, more and more items get added to the pool, which is, it's a neat concept. I've kind of changed my original strategy of rushing through the beginning because I feel like it's a little safer, and because you can get spells at any point during the run. And quite frankly, I've gotten completely hosed on healing spells the last couple runs. So we're taking our time. You know, I may even, just because I'm going to be farming for a special item to make Zeppy usable, I may even just completely, you know, go through and try and kill everything for these floors. The enemies, if you hadn't noticed already, spawn on the map. Their movement, the movement of each type of enemy is set in a certain way. So, like you saw the frog there was running around the outside. Some of them move based on how you move. Basically, a lot of this game, a lot of the run, is learning how to manipulate certain enemies so that you don't get into fights with them when you don't want to, or to get back attacks on them by approaching them from the side or the back. The items we need to kill the boss don't actually start spawning until floor 5, but we can get stuff like I mentioned, healing spells, armor. For the most part, I don't believe helmets, accessories, or shields spawn after floor 10, so we get a better chance of having defensive items like those Camu, or like well, we'd get the Camu armor potentially anyway, but basically there's a better chance to get good defensive items later, or earlier, that you can't get later, and it gives us a better chance of surviving. Not that defense really matters that much by the end, but mid-game, it does, so we'll take it. Like I said, we're kind of, my goal right now is just to go through these first few floors as if I was doing 100%. I'm gonna take my time and kill pretty much everything except for the really dangerous enemies. Up until I get to the floors with the Pugs. So we're gonna be skipping like Wispys and Mimics, I believe. And like bees. Stuff like that. There's a lot of enemies, and basically there's scary enemies that we don't want to fight. We're gonna still skip those. Everything else is fair game though, and most of the time part of the reason we don't do that is because we don't have healing yet, and because most of my strategies are from picking up watching speedrunning videos, but I'm tired of trying to do kind of the speed strats when I'm not succeeding, I guess. I'd like to win. Speaking of winning, just got a post from one of my friends saying that he, after watching some of these videos, successfully completed a run, I believe on his Super Nintendo, even. He posted the picture of him beating the jelly, so I thought that was pretty cool. He was doing it from the actual game itself, not from the bonus mode, and he was using blue chest items. There's some items that you can find in blue chests that can also be found throughout the world, and if you exit the dungeon, you get to take those with you, which is really neat, and basically it lets you kind of do like the way some roguelike games do, where you get to like bring a few things with you. It gives you a base to start with, so it's a different kind of run than what we're doing with starting from the beginning every time. but it's still really, really hard because none of the items you need for, I guess, one. There's one item that you can get, which he didn't have, in a blue chest, and that's the Gades Blade. That's like one of the end game items. So it's still really hard and still really impressive, and still congratulations to him. Kind of makes me consider doing that style of run instead. And honestly, if I ever do a run of Lufia 2, I may actually like get to that point and then do the ancient cave in the middle or something. It's a very different experience, and I mean, even just exiting with the blue chest items with Providence is a whole different thing. Am I gonna die here? Well, let's hope not. I just kind of had that moment of fear as I realized how few hit points Maxim has. Okay, so we're gonna actually stop here. Just use one potion on everyone. The reason their hit points look so low is because you don't restore hit points as you level up, it just increases your maximum. So, it seems like I'm losing lots of hit points, but in reality, a lot of those were just because my maximum is so much higher than where I started. You might have seen Zeppy ran away from one of those fights there. Not a huge deal, but a little bit annoying because that means he's not getting the XP that the rest of the party is. Did I miss the stairs again? This is a theme. Oh good. The stairs were not somewhere I had already been, so I do not feel quite as stupid as normal. Okay. We really want to make sure that we kill the spiders because I don't have antidotes, and they can poison me. Minor important details. One of the other things here, I'm starting to customize my attacks a little bit more to make sure that I take out the front row first. The enemies are staggered slightly, and the front row take, for both my party and the enemies, front row takes and deals slightly more damage, back row deals and receives slightly less. Or deals and, yeah, deals and receives, sure. Okay, so in some floors, most of the stuff ends up in one spot. We call this a party room. This is a fairly early party room, so this is actually really useful for us, because there's lots of enemies here, and we are actually going to be fighting a bunch. I really hope that I'm going to keep saying it, but, you know, I really hope that we actually get some healing here, some healing spells. Okay, so this is going to take a little bit, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to be fairly successful and not get completely squished here. I'm hoping there's at least a few things here that we can get back attacks on. Enemies that have a standard forward-facing representation on the map, like the eagles, you can't back attack. However, these other enemies, we can, or we can at least have a chance to. So we're going to kind of sit off to the side here and swing our sword at the air to make the enemies run towards us, where we might be able to get in on them from behind. like with these horses, which is good because horses do hit pretty hard. We also have a chance from these horses, and I believe actually from the eagles that we were fighting earlier, to get a special drop. So there's always a chance. I'm not expecting it by any means, and it's not like it's, you know, game-breakingly good or anything, but it's another piece of equipment that fills a slot. And like I said, you're pretty much, for most of the game, just getting armor and weapons, unless you get blue chests. So filling an accessory slot, even with an item that's mediocre, is really good. It's better than nothing. Okay. I'm gonna go down here now, before we take care of the rest of these. Got him first. Nice. Eagle. So you can see kind of why we don't usually fight everything, because the experience is somewhat diminishing as you go. You get diminishing returns from fighting the same enemies over and over again. I really just want to... So basically, in order to get our capsule monster, which is our little fish there, to the highest form, to its 5th form, you have to have a special item. Said item is dropped with a degree of regularity. It's like a 10% drop, roughly, in the mid-20s, floors, as far as floors go. It's not really deep in the dungeon, but the enemies that drop it have a very powerful, not very powerful, but they have an area of effect attack that they do. They cast a big fire spell. It hurts. And area of effect spells that hit your whole party for a decent amount of damage are really not good for us. Especially if we don't have a healing spell yet. So, we're kind of crossing our fingers here, and that's part of the reason I want to kill all the enemies on the way down. It makes us more likely to survive that attack, even if killing all of these enemies, you know, net us not even a whole level. The sum of them still got us a bunch of experience, and we're gonna be further ahead of where we need to be, or, you know, even like on curve, I guess, for where we need to be, if we fight more monsters, basically. Like I mentioned, this isn't my normal strategy. This is kind of a... But neither is Zeppy, I guess. Really, it's because we're using Zeppy that we're doing this. By the way, Sir Custom 11 is a guitar. I don't know why the creators put that in, but they did. So now we're like level 10, 9? Yeah. Which normally our aim is to be at this level by floor 13, and I don't think we're even above 10 yet. We still have red cores, which are a highly evasive enemy that drops high experience. So there's a pretty good chance we'll be continuing to be ahead of the curve, I guess. Basically, if I can get the fruit, I'll be happy. Once we get that point, I'm much less worried about fighting things. There's also a lot more things to avoid fighting as we go deeper. Right now, we're just gonna, you know... Right now we're okay to fight some stuff, especially with some of the armor drops we've gotten. You may notice the enemies missing a lot or doing very low damage, and that's largely because of those armor drops. Didn't get in first on either of those buffalo. Oh well. Like I said, these guys aren't hitting really, really hard or anything. I've gotten a few good armor drops. We're doing well on levels, so they're not gonna kill us. Red jellies aren't really a threat, but they make the others, they make that back row green jelly harder to kill, so we're gonna focus our fire. Again, okay. This guy might drop a bat rock. I can't remember if it's big bats or red bats that drop them. Either way, we'll hopefully get something out of this, I guess. These aren't really hard or productive fights. Just grinding. No treasure chest that time. That's unfortunate. I really would have liked another treasure chest. Some more treasure chests, you know. Oh! That was a... So, some of the enemies move in weird ways in certain situations. Buffalo move very fast towards you if you are in a straight line from them. Those are mimics. So yeah, buffalo, straight line vertically. There's some certain enemy, most of the golems in the game move very quickly at you horizontally. Some of the enemies, like assassins, just move very quickly at you in general. And I'm pretty sure we just trapped ourselves on this side, and there's a mimic over there, and it might very well kill us. So we're going to take a moment to prepare. We're going to use way more potions than I am perfectly comfortable with, and see if we can get in first on an enemy that I really didn't want to fight in the first place. Hopefully the fact that we've been actually leveling will make this not as bad. Okay, that's not terrible. You can see there the main reason that we want to do that is because they are really fast. They get to attack before most of our characters. Anything that attacks before Artie is scary to us. That's basically how this game works. That's why we bring Artie with us. He is very fast. He is not... I mean, he's not a bad character, but compared to the other characters, and for the purposes of the way the cave works, he's not useful. He's not super useful. The main thing he brings to the table is his speed. And the car should finish that off. Yeah, this guy's gonna chase us. And we're gonna go in that room, and he's gonna trap us again. Okay, we're just gonna avoid it. Okay, even though it's in the back row and it's one of the harder enemies here, we're gonna direct all of our fire at the poison beetle in the hopes that we can kill it before it gets a chance to poison somebody. We do have, I think, a couple antidotes that have been dropped by enemies, but we're not risking it. We don't... Risk is bad. This is a play it safe situation. Okay, these enemies are probably not even worth killing, but like I said, everything kind of adds up here, and they're not hard, so as long as they're not, you know, making us waste lots of potions, that's kind of my thought at this point. Hey, Zeppy used a special move. Nice. I mean, he's used like fish kick a couple times, but that's like an actual special move. I don't think he has the best special attack in the game. Like his intelligence rating is lower, so his magic damage is lower. Then like, I know that's, I want to say like Darby and Blaze have the highest. By the way, if you have questions about specifics with the capsule monsters, the last video that I put up before this one, actually, because since it was a reasonably short video and I died horribly, I decided to spend a little bit of time talking more about the capsule monsters. That's kind of where I came to the conclusion about Zeppy also. So, or potentially Zeppy as my next one to try. So, and actually the video before that, basically all of, I think it's my 7th attempt, I felt like there was a lot of info dump. While it was a terrible run just based on luck, I did a lot of info dump, so if you have questions about how the run's supposed to work, what we're looking for and stuff, I'd highly suggest watching that one if you haven't yet. Okay. Again, targeting fights where we're getting in from behind, where we can, especially, and we are taking on every fight we can just because we want to make sure that when we fight the Pugs, which are weird fire chicken things, that they don't kill us in one shot. I may be over-preparing here, but hey, let's try and be ahead of the curve for once and see how it goes. I will also just let you know, this very likely means that I will be making more segments than normal for this run, just because, like, I'm not, this has been, I feel like this one's been going for a little while. I really should get a timer for my videos at some point. Okay, so these guys move 90 degrees from how you move. Trying to remember. So if I move right, there we go. Got in first. Go ahead and whack these scorpions. Again, they're poison enemies. We'd really prefer not to get poisoned, just because of our limited resources. It's bad enough healing without having to heal all the time. Another not terribly useful spell that'll be good against Yeah, it'll be good against the cores. That's what I was looking for. Which might be appearing on as early as this floor. They start appearing on floor 11, so if we can get a couple cores in, that'd be great. I think my plan right now is going to be to, since based on where we're at and the rate we're going through this, I'm going to see if I can get to the bottom of floor 14, to the stairs for floor 14. Because 15 is kind of our magic number where we get the Dakar, we can start getting the Dakar blade. It's kind of where we really start caring about what's in the chests. Now, obviously, this this particular run, we've been getting what's in the chests anyway. Like, we skipped one area on one floor. Okay, so these guys are probably just gonna... Yep. They're very evasive, they run away very quickly. But they give like 3,000 experience each. And these are the lowest level cores. There's 4 sets total throughout the run. Hey, that's a... So we got Droplet, which is a first level water spell. The other one we just got is Dragon, which is the 3rd level water spell. If you're a Final Fantasy person, that's like getting Firaga at the beginning, right at the beginning of the game. Obviously we don't have the MP to use it a lot, unfortunately. Again, your items for filling up your resources are very limited. So MP is one of those resources, and we don't have a lot of ways to get it. So attack magic is generally not a thing we use, or at least rely on. There's a few situations where we'll use it. I will say, there's a decent chance, depending on where we're at on some of this, that I will be using the dragon magic that we just got on the pugs that we're going to be fighting later. Even if one stays, we're gonna... 2,000, my mistake, not 3,000. Either way, we get a level. It's basically just a guaranteed level. And we're very ahead of the curve on levels right now. I'm getting really tired of not having healing magic in my runs, but, we'll apparently get used to it? Question mark? But yes, these enemies are very evasive, which means physical attacks tend to miss them. That's why we use the spells. They're very weak to magic, regardless. But yeah, the pugs are fire element. I believe they're weak to water. So having access to that 3rd level water spell is a thing we might actually go with, especially if Artie's faster than them and the rest of the party isn't. Because if we can just get in and one-shot them with Dragon, that might be a strategy that's worth, it's worth exploring. They are very fast enemies, if I remember correctly, though. Okay, so this scorpion... okay, so we're gonna have it move that way. Got him first. These things must be fire element as well, or earth, because Maxim's fire dagger's doing very little damage to them. It's one of the things that there's a giant chart that if I was approaching this a different way, I might just have a laptop sitting next to me with that full chart open. I've basically taken the good parts from a couple charts, or the best parts from a couple charts, to keep like these are the really dangerous enemies on certain floors, these are the really, you know, useful, these are the floors where the cores appear, and these are the floors where your good items start dropping. So I have like a one-page printout that I use, compared to the very, very large spreadsheet. That I was using, or that I drew the information from primarily. Like I said, I used a couple sources, since mostly just because I'm not necessarily speedrunning, so not all the information is relevant. But that thing actually, basically, literally has every enemy listed, along with its types and what it's, like whether... I did also make notes of which enemies you could use instant death effects on, just because that's something that comes up if we were to get a deadly rod, which I haven't gotten in like 2 or 3 runs. Or at least it feels like it. Deadly rods cause instant death, basically. It's pretty straightforward. These skeletons drop wood shields, apparently, which is nice. Obviously, I don't like the fact that I'm getting damaged. Could really use some healing. I should probably check my IP attacks also, just to make sure that I don't have healing available there. IP is the bar at the bottom. It fills up as you take damage. It's a percentage based on your gut stat. Each item has different special attacks it can give you, and based on those attacks, you can do different IP things. So, yeah, like that. Fill everybody's HP up by 25%. Let's just do that real quick while we're not being... Actually, we're gonna kill 2 of them first. That's gonna be our goal here. So we're gonna swing in with that. Let's just swing in with everybody and see where we're at. Basically, the next time I get a second turn on some enemies, I'll have Dakar use that. Apparently, these are not the enemies that's gonna happen with. Actually having both Dakar and Guy with that Camu armor means that we've got 2 chances now, as long as we've got that HP, or as long as we've got the IP for it. So, this should be floor 14, I believe, 13 or 14. We're gonna call that the end of this first video segment, because I feel like it's been going a little while, and I feel like this is gonna be a little bit longer than our normal run, so I'm going to see if I can break it up a bit more often floor-wise than I normally would. We'll jump in next time with looking for a Dakar blade, as well as the elusive healing spell, unfortunately. Let me know what you think. I'm liking Zeppy so far. I might make Zeppy, especially if the Pugs go well. I'm definitely gonna consider making Zeppy a part of my team. We'll see how the later floors go. Like, subscribe if you enjoyed this. Good to see know when the next one comes out. Feel free to leave comments if you have any suggestions, questions, comments. Like I said, go back and watch the 7th one if you haven't watched any of the other ones, because I feel like there was a lot of information dump on that one as far as what we're looking for during the run. And have a good one.